Hello, and welcome to today's CA Process Automation Global User Community Webcast. My name is Lisa, and I will be your event specialist. At this time, all lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press star, the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you would like to withdraw your question, press the pound key. I would now like to turn today's call over to your host, Mr. Hendry Taylor. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody, depending on whereabouts in the world you are. Today I'm going to just give some feedback about CA World. There are a couple of you that I know were there. I had the privilege of meeting some of the people that were there. So for those, this is primarily for those who weren't there, that I can tell you a little bit about what CA World is about and what I saw that I found particularly interesting. If you can't see the slides, just let me know, but I think it should all be good at the moment. So from an agenda perspective, I'm going to just briefly introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me. Give you an overview of CA World. So I'm going to cover things like what it's all about, you know, what goes on, that type of background. Then I'm going to go into a couple of the sessions about PAM that I found really interesting that I attended. I'm also then just going to speak very briefly about the Community Leaders Seminar, which was 2 days before, well, it was the Saturday and Sunday, and CA World officially started on the Sunday, and just give you some feedback from that. And then we'll have a question and answer session after that. All right, so about me, I've got about 27 years IT experience covering most areas, going all the way from operations to development to consulting. I've got about 20 years of workload automation, 10 years in process automation. I've got about 10 years business analysis experience as well, and about 15 years consulting. Obviously, I did quite a lot of those in conjunction with each other, otherwise I'd be, well, anyway. So essentially what that all adds up to is I'm old and hopefully wise. And if you want to find out more about me or contact me, you can get me, I've got an About Me page that you can reference. I will also be putting these slides up in a PDF format on the community board so that you can all look at them if you want. Okay, so CA World. Now this year there was about 7,000 attendees. Now that does not include the actual CA staff and staff from other companies that were had stands in the exhibition center and were exhibiting. So, you know, it's quite a large number of people that's there. It's an ideal opportunity to network with other people in the industry and also to meet other users of PAM. Now, I had quite a couple of really interesting discussions with other PAM users about the way that they want to use PAM, the way that they're using PAM, you know, and you learn from each other in that way. So it's a really, really good opportunity. In the exhibition center, there's hundreds of stands. Just about all of the CA products are on display there, and it's the latest releases. So you can go and actually see them in action. You can get demos, and you can speak to people who are either product managers or developers, or sometimes even support people for the products, and get a lot of information from them, and you know, discuss concerns you might have, issues you might have, or even tell them about what you really like about the product, what's really good, because that sort of feedback is equally as good as the negative feedback. And then also some of the other stands are people like Cisco were there, Citrix were there, Microsoft were there, so a whole bunch of other large companies that do a lot of stuff with and around a lot of the CA products. So, you know, it is really interesting, and you can see a lot of things. And then there's also a lot of sessions covering all of the different product groups. Then we have some events. Now, the main event night was on the Tuesday night, and it was actually at the beach at the Mandalay Bay Hotel, and we saw the Goo Goo Dolls performing live, which is absolutely brilliant. Really good night. Food is good. Other nights we've got, there were some, the grand opening of the exhibition center, in which we met the CA CEO, Michael Gregoire. Really interesting. Spoke about his vision for the company, where they're planning on going. Was really, really exciting and interesting to listen to him. It looks like he's got a really good vision for CA. So I'm expecting to see a lot of good things coming up. Some of the other keynote addresses were people like Sir Richard Branson. I really enjoyed watching him, found him extremely funny. He's got a really good sense of humor, really bright person as well. There's also a lot of user group meetings. So different user groups and user communities had get-togethers. So they would actually set up, get a room, sometimes have a couple of drinks and some snacks or something, and get together, and so that you can meet physically in person some of the other members in your community. Unfortunately, with us being quite a new community, I was really quite unprepared for this, not realizing that there's all of the sort of things that we can arrange. But now I know for the next CA World, so we will definitely set up something for the next CA World. There's also, over and above the sort of normal sessions, which are presentation type sessions, they have some training sessions where it is actually training provided by CA staff on particular products. They also have a bunch of hands-on lab sessions where you actually get to go and do stuff with a product. So depending on what it is that you're interested in, which product. So there was a PAM lab, a hands-on lab session, which I will talk about a little later in more detail. All right, so if we're now going to the sessions, one of the sessions that I went and watched and that I found really, really interesting was presented by the Walt Disney Company, and it was called Streamline Automated Fulfillment with CA Process Automation. And this was all about automated server provisioning, and it's virtual servers, right? And they spoke a lot about the challenges they had that kind of led them down the path of doing using process automation to go and do the server provisioning. And they also spoke about how, the approach that they took to it. They spoke about the end results of what they saw, the benefits that they saw. And some of those were large reduction in turnaround time. So where previously people, if someone in a company needed a new server, it could take anything from 2 to 8 weeks or something before they get that server. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that sort of pain. They were able to now turn around servers in literally hours. I think the actual SLA was something like 4 hours or something that they are able to provide. That's a massive change, and that was all enabled purely by process automation. The quality was improved, so because it's always done in the same way, because it's automated, there's no human intervention, so someone doesn't have an off day and forget to do something. They also improved the uniformity of the builds. Although they had a policy of having same server builds, essentially when they did an analysis and went and actually reviewed all of their servers in their estate, they found that they had probably 30 or 40, if not 100, different types of builds. And it's just because every time someone requested a server build, because it wasn't automated, they could say, oh, I need this one, I need that, and it would be then modified. So what they did when they started automating this with process automation is they used, I'm not sure if they actually used service catalog, but they used something like a service catalog where they would go in and request the server. And essentially there was a couple of options. And I think they got something like 4 or 5 different builds only. So you can choose one of those five options and that's it. So, that's all you get. So over and above it being more uniform, it allowed them to have a lot of standardization. So the versions that were deployed on all their builds, what software is automatically deployed, how it's configured, everything is always standardized. Because quite often, when it's done manually, you might have a number of engineers doing it, and each one would do something slightly different to the other. So that was that session about streamlining. Then there was a session by Unum, who's a large insurer in the US. And they spoke about maintaining IT relevance in a cloudy world. Now, there's also was about server build and deployment, and they also then moved from physical servers to more virtual servers. But theirs came about because they, again, they had, in some cases, there were some servers that took them up to 6 or 8 weeks to even 20 weeks to deliver. And some of that was that they had people who would go out and, a request form with a whole bunch of questions, and based on that they would tailor how they built the server. And they found that they had hundreds, if not thousands, of different builds. So again, no standardization, no uniformity. But it got to a point where someone in the company said to the IT head of IT, why should I get a server from you when I can use my company credit card and get a server from an Amazon image spun up literally in in an hour or something for me? And that kind of made them sit and wake up and realize that, they need to move from being an old style dinosaur and to be more relevant in the cloud world. So they saw massive cost reductions, faster delivery, improved quality, and it made a big difference in that their people were now free to do more interesting and meaningful work within the organization as opposed to just building servers. Okay, the next one I went to was from a company called Calvarian, and they're a development house and consulting company based in the UK. And they spoke about the business value of IT process automation. So this was quite different. This was really useful if anyone needed to try and justify the business value of using IT process automation. So they spoke about productivity, consistency, efficiency being 3 of the main pillars why and how you can justify process automation. Then they also spoke about the 80-20 rule in IT operations that they use. So they did some analysis and found out that quite often, at least 80% or more of the IT budget is spent, well, the budget and effort is spent on maintaining the IT estate. So that's just maintaining stuff. It's not doing anything new or delivering new services or new work or new abilities. So they said that there's only about 20% that is spent on delivering the service. And sometimes it could be even less than 20%, depending on whether yours is 80 or 90% spent on maintenance. They also found that 80% of IT's objectives were on delivery of new service. But if you're only spending 20% of your actual time, budget, and effort on delivering new service, it's really difficult to meet those objectives. Okay? And then also 60% of all the severity 1 faults that they analyzed were caused by human error. And again, automation would eliminate that. So this was, I really found this one interesting because it was completely different. The other two, as you can see, were customer success stories, which were really interesting in themselves, especially considering that both of them had different drivers to get to a similar place. But here they're talking about before you actually embark on the process, and they spoke about methodologies that they use and so forth. All right, and then the last one that I'm going to talk about is the hands-on lab, and it was called Delivering IT Orchestration Using CA Process Automation. Now, as much as this was actually supposed to be a hands-on lab, it was actually more of a demo. They had some challenges around actually providing the sort of required infrastructure for the use case that they had to everybody that was in the room. So it was more of a show and tell. Now, the use case was around getting and setting dates in someone's calendar. So they actually had PAM go out, get available dates or 4 available time slots based on a date and a possible time that you entered into a start request form. We would send that, go to Exchange server, get that information back, present it to you in another form. You would look at that, select one, and actually create the meeting. It's possibly not something that would be used in the real world, but it does show the flexibility, the power of process automation, and it used quite a number of Microsoft Exchange-related operators. So, and it, I think as much as it's not a real-world example and not something that someone would necessarily go out and deploy or set up in their environment, it is definitely, it was good in that it made you think slightly outside of the box as to what it is that you can automate with process automation. So I found that really interesting and quite useful. And that was actually, this particular session was actually delivered by one of the CA product managers for PAM. And then the last one that, sorry, I thought the previous one was the last one. My mind's going. The other session I want to talk about was presented by our very own Eyal, who's on our board, and it was called Leveraging Process Automation as a Team Augmenter. Now, in this case, Eyal spoke about a number of customer use cases and an overview of the PAM processes that they deployed for these particular use cases for customers. It was all about automating IT service requests, and they used a lot of other CA, integrated with a lot of other CA products like CA Catalog, CA Service Desk, and there were a couple others. So it was really interesting to see how a lot of people are using this in the real world around the IT service request automation. And it was what was particularly nice about this is that Eyal actually had screenshots of his PAM processes that he created. So it's not just that he was telling you about what they were doing, how they were doing it, what they achieved. He also said, look, there's parts of my process. So you could actually see how it was set up and see that it actually all existed. So it was really, really interesting. Okay, so that is all about that I want to talk about the sessions. As I said, you know, there are hundreds of sessions, if not 1,000 or something, covering all products. And depending on your interest, you might attend sessions in various products, as I did. I did a lot of PAM sessions. I did a lot of workload automation sessions because those are the two main areas that I operate in. So Now I just want to move on to the Community Leaders Summit. Now that was 2 days for all of the community leaders of all the different CA communities, and there's quite a number of them. They had a couple of sessions where they told us about some of the future stuff that's coming down the line, some advice about running the communities, what's good, what's not good. So in terms of feedback, I find it really useful to go there, speak to a lot of the other community leaders, find out about what they're doing in their communities, how they're doing things, and it actually sort of gave us a bunch of ideas because Dorothy and Louis were there as well. We sat down and had a couple of discussions about this, so we've got a lot of ideas. So you'll see there will be some changes coming and a couple of things that we want to do to hopefully make it a lot more exciting and interesting. The other thing that they told us quite a bit about and spoke quite a bit about is that the actual community portal, they are working on a bunch of enhancements and everything for that. So I'm really looking forward to that because there's quite a lot of really good things that they're going to be doing there as well. So we actually spoke to, we had presentations from the guys who are actually doing these changes, who are implementing it. So it was a really, really good 2 days as well. Really informative, learned a lot. And that's really it. If any of you haven't been to CA World, it is really well worthwhile going. You know, I've been to just about every CA World for the last 6 or 7 that I've been on. And for me, the biggest value is not necessarily about seeing the new products or anything, but hearing about other people's experiences and actually meeting other people working with the products. That's where I get the most value out of it. And if there are any questions.
At this time, if you would like to ask a question, please press star and the number 1 on your telephone keypad. We'll pause briefly to compile the Q&A roster.
And you can also use the Q&A on the WebEx portal.
I see Louis has his hand up.
Yes, he has a, I can open his line.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Vandenberg.
Good morning, Henry. Hey, Henry. The one thing that I thought that was pretty good from CA World. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about it, but about how Gregoire was talking about how the approach for development is going to change and how the role of the communities are going to change in the development process of the CA products.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, correct me if I go wrong, but Louis is right. He spoke a lot about the fact that, firstly, they are starting to focus more around software as a service and a lot more around agile development. But there's also a really strong focus from a development perspective to take information or feedback from users and customers and build those in. So instead of and historically CA did this as well, although maybe not, they weren't quite as bad at it or didn't do it as badly as some other companies, but where they would sort of decide what they felt that the customers wanted, or they felt what was best in terms of product direction and that. CA are taking a complete flip side to this, and it's all going to be steered by the customers and the users of the products. Then if I missed anything important there, Louis?
No, that was it. You know, pretty much the user communities are going to have such a big say in the future direction of the product, and I think our user community, you know, we should ready ourselves for that change so that we are able to verbalize our priorities to the process automation product managers to let them know what we believe is important in the product.
Absolutely.
That was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis.
Again, if you would like to ask a question on the phone line, press *1 on your telephone keypad. There are no questions on the phone line.
Well, thank you, Hendry, very much for your presentation. We really appreciate it. And if you have any other questions, you can ask Hendry directly through his email. Do you have that available, Hendry?
Yeah, if they just, I'll put the slides up, and if they go to the About Me, it's got my email address and everything on there, and you're welcome to contact me.
Okay, we'll have a replay posted soon with the slides. And also you can use the general discussion on the message boards. Thanks for coming, everybody.
This concludes today's conference. You may now disconnect.